Hello and welcome back. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the Dragon Knight class, which is in the book for Auran's Archive of Fractured Realities. The Dragon Knight is a much more fighter-like class. Imagine it's kind of more of an elemental fighter. So it's a martial, it uses elemental damages on top of it. Essentially, this was my attempt at making a martial class be actually on par with the spellcasters in terms of damage output, because the balance in D&D 5e has martials kind of low on the lower tier than the spellcasters. But let's get right into it. So, a Dragon Knight, you can choose to make either your dexterity or your strength your highest ability score, and then it's followed up by your charisma. For quick build purposes, you'd want either folk hero or soldier background. Those can work really well with this. The Dragon Knight uses a d10 for its hit dice, and is proficient in light armor and shields, simple weapons and katanas, which katanas are a weapon in this book. Doesn't have any tool proficiency. Its saving throws are dexterity and charisma, and you can choose 3 from any of the skills. Starting equipment would be either katana or a martial weapon, any simple weapon and a shield, or 2 simple weapons, leather armor, and an explorer's pack or dungeoneer's pack. Or if you choose to go with starting gold, that's 3d4 times 10 for gold pieces, which you can then buy your equipment. So let's get right into it. Starting at level 1, you get fighting style and second wind. Now this is very similar to the fighter starting off right at the bat. You get a fighting style. The optional fighting styles you get are archery, defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, or 2-weapon fighting. And then you get second wind, which works just like the fighter, but uses Dragon Knight levels instead of fighter levels. And you only get the use of this feature once, and you can regain it back on a short or a long rest. Going right to level 2, we have the Knight specialty and Dragon style. Now the Knight specialty is your subclass, and you will get improvement. You get features at level 6, 14, and 18, as well as, second level when you get this. Also at level 2 is the Dragon style. Starting at second level, you can choose 1 elemental dragon type. You become resistant to that type of damage. Choose between fire, cold, lightning, acid, or poison. You also gain a dragon style fighting style. This fighting style gives you an additional 1d6 of the damage type that you chose. This additional damage can only be applied to 1 attack during your attack on your turn, during your action on your turn. So it's later you're going to get multiple attacks in a turn. Only one of them will receive this additional damage, but it still allows them to do additional elemental damage when you're on your turn when you're doing an attack. Starting at level 3, you get what's called Severe Slice, and starting at third level, after you've landed an attack, you can choose to double the damage dice of that attack. You can only use this ability once, and you regain that use after finishing a long rest. So it's not quite a crit, but it does the same thing that a crit does. It doubles the damage dice. So with all your extra things, you'd want to do that for an attack where you're doing your additional dragon style damage, and you would want to probably save this if you get a crit. It's now you're doubling the crit as well. Very useful, but you only get the one use of this. It's a severe strike or severe slice, because the intent initially when I was making this was as kind of more of a Japanese kind of, samurai kind of fighting style. That was the kind of original idea I went with this. At level 4, you get an ability score improvement. We can kind of skip over that because everyone knows. At level 5, you get an extra attack, which works the same as the, fighter, barbarian, paladin, ranger. Every class that gets extra attack, it works the same. They get 1, and they get a second extra attack at 13th level. They don't get 3 like the fighter. They don't get 3 extra attacks like the fighter do. They only get 2 extra attacks. So it's more than the other martials, but it is less than the fighter because they do their additional damage. Then at 6th level, you get your Knight specialty feature. We can skip over that. At 7th level is Dragon style bonus. Starting at 7th level, you can add 2d6 of your elemental damage type instead of 1d6. And you can also do a Dragon Slice or Dragon Slash as an attack once per short or long rest. The Dragon Slash allows you to add your proficiency to your damage and does double damage to all draconic type enemies. So if you're fighting an enemy that has the dragon creature type, you deal double damage when you use a dragon slash, which you can only do once, but it still will do double damage. So it's another thing you'd want to throw on top of. If you have a crit against if you're fighting a dragon and you crit, you throw your dragon slice into it, you throw your severe slice into it, and so you get your proficiency bonus, and you're doing crit damage to ×2, then ×2 again for severe slice, and ×2 again for draconic slice. You are very sufficient at taking down dragons if you get a crit. But it's still very, very useful. Then, after 7th level, we got 8th level is another ability score improvement. 9th level and 10th level are both nothing. At 11th level, you get Action Surge. This is the same as Fighter, but they get it way later than the Fighters do. So they're able to take an Action Surge. They only get one use of this, and they must finish a short or long rest before they can use it again. At 12th level is the next ability score improvement. 13th level is the second extra attack, which I just said. You get one at 5th and one at 13th. 14th level is a Knight specialty feature. At 15th level, you get the next Dragon Style bonus, which you now deal 2d8 of your element to your Dragon Style attack instead of 2d6. And in addition, instead of resistant to that damage type, you are now immune to that damage type. This damage type, once you choose it, it stays. So you got to make sure you choose wisely when you choose your elemental type. After 15th level, we got 16th level, which is another ability score improvement. 17th level is nothing. 18th level is a Knight specialty feature. 19th is ability score improvement. And then at 20th level, you get one feature, the Dragon Form. Starting at 20th level, as a bonus action, you can change fighting forms. You gain resistance to all type of physical damage, being slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning from non-magical weapons. You also gain 20 temporary hit points, and you can add your dragon-style damage to each attack you do while you are in this form. You can only go into this form once, and it only lasts for a minute. Once you use this feature, you cannot use it again until you've finished a long rest. So it's a hyper power-up at 20th level to just do a lot of damage and tank a lot of damage when you get to this high level. So we're going to go just a slight bit, just a brief summary into each of these subclasses. The first subclass is Dragon's Breath, which allows you to use firearms, using a draconic firearm and minor magic ways to improve your bullets as they fly through the air, giving you a bunch of different... You automatically get a mystical firearm when you take this subclass, and you're allowed to make elemental shots, which allow you to do interesting things like make it pierce, have it ricochet off, have it explode, have it freeze, have it deal lightning damage, have it stun a creature. It can be a brutal one. It all depends on things known as arcane charges, and for that one, you get that one is the one that has arcane charges. So it's kind of like Battle Master, but with being purely ranged stuff and just messing with things a little bit. Next is the Dragon Scales, which is the very high defense-based one. They build up a high armor class, and in addition also can help their allies to be better protected. So they get features that allow them to increase their armor, to increase their armor class by getting a special shield that grows as they grow, and they can add different bonuses to their armor or to their allies' armor whenever they're close to them. They're very useful. The next one is the Dragon's Teeth, which is kind of a lance-based fighting style with your weapons. So you get this one actually is pretty much just the Battle Master. You get battle maneuvers just like the Battle Master does, and you get each of these most of these subclasses give you a weapon, and those weapons automatically improve with as you're leveling up. So they would be able to stay on par with people getting like +2 weapons later on. These also increase as you're leveling up. The next one is known as the Evolutionary, which has their body changing over time, starting off with giving them claws, a dragon's tail, dragon's arcane, dragon elemental breath, and even wings by their 18th level feature. The Psionic Knight is a psychic-based telepathy, telekinesis, and they can choose for their dragon style damage to be psychic instead of their other types. And the last one is the Samurai. This is the original one I kind of made. They get features that allow them to do some interesting things with a known as Shadow Slice, which allows them to essentially that's their weapon, is their get a katana or naginata, their choice. This is a symbol slice, which allows them to do some bonus action fun stuff. They get an additional extra attack. So the samurais have 3 extra attacks on their turn, so they can attack 4 times, while the rest of the subclass only attack 3. And the Unyielding Grasp is their final thing, in which they can essentially delay yourself falling unconscious. So it's just like the Zealot Barbarian, where when they would hit 0 and they would go unconscious, they can kind of keep going. But instead of theirs is when they hit 0, they can immediately take an extra turn and then hit 0. So it's not like you keep fighting until you're all the way like super negative. You hit 0 and you got one more turn to do what you want, and then you go down. So it's a pretty neat feature. So overall, the Dragon Knight is pretty simple, but meant to be a high damage class, and meant to, I mean, people call it Nova. You go Nova as soon as you hit a crit. If you hit a crit, you dump as much as you can into it, and you dump all your one-use things. So you got one use. If you hit a crit, you do high damage, very high damage on that. That's when you would want to spend your things. It's an interesting class, and because it has such little resources, you essentially got your one super powerful thing, and you're like, okay, well, I'm just kind of a martial. I'm gonna tank, do some decent damage, and tank. It's in my opinion, a pretty fun class, and also makes a interesting class to make a villain be, because these guys mimic the the fighting styles of dragons, and even the elemental styles of dragons. So it could be a Dragon Knight could be a very interesting villain of someone who's working with a dragon. But this is a very simplistic class video, probably the shortest one that's going to be on this list. The next class video coming up is the Gambler, which is the one I am most excited for because it is the one that I have played through the most, has gone through the most editing, and I've shared it already with some other people, and other people have said it looks amazing. And I've even had some random strangers online who say they want to use this class. And if the DM approved it, they were happy with using the class because it's an interesting class, because it's a support spellcaster. And in a game I'm currently dungeon mastering, one of the players is playing a Gambler. I will link their YouTube channel, in which the first episode just came out. I will link that YouTube channel in the description of this video if you're interested in watching it. For now, thank you all for watching. Look forward to the next video with my most looked forward to video, in my opinion, coming up. Thank you.